Welcome to the Small Giants Fishbowl. This topic is finding peace of mind. Listen in as Rob Dubay of Image One will talk about meditation for business leaders, the misconceptions, the benefits, and the research. Hint, it doesn't have to involve being a cross-legged monk. Okay, here we go.
Cool. Well, very grateful for all of you that are here today. You're either very curious or you're a family member supporting me, for which I'm also grateful. Or you already are a meditator, somebody who has meditated and you just want to learn more. And so I give you a lot of credit for taking time out of your day. There's lots of things you could be doing, and you chose to do this. So that in itself is pretty special. Glenn's been asking me to do a fishbowl on this topic for quite some time. And because of the fact that I'm no expert in this area, although I've been meditating a long time, I kind of was hesitant, but he wore me down, and here we are. So I'll do the best that I can do. And just to kind of get everything started, by show of kind of waving your hands just for help from me, does anybody have a regular meditation practice? Just go like that if you do. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. So I'm going to just share kind of how I came into this. Growing up and as I got into adulthood, I often felt very stressed and very anxious. I worried a lot. I came to find that that's not uncommon in this world. I didn't know that for a long time, but I guess other people are actually stressed and worried and anxious like I was. My grandfather, who we called Pepe, is no longer with us, but he was the worrier times 10. And my wife, when we were married early on, she started referring to me as Pepe Jr. And so I didn't like the feeling. I didn't like the feeling of being stressed and having a lot of anxiety. And so I kind of searched and, I thought, is there anything out there that can help kind of calm me down a little bit? And I learned about meditation. I read about it, but I never really did anything with it. I never took any action. And so just to back up for a minute, I started my company, Image One, in 1991. I started pretty much right out of college. This is our 25th year anniversary, I'm proud to say. And in 2004, we had a unique opportunity where we sold our company to a public company. And as part of the agreement, I was to run Image One as a wholly owned subsidiary for a few years. And what I found early on as that transition took place was that I was on an all-time high stress level. I'd never worked before for anybody else, and it was very difficult, and so many things were so out of my control that I was having a very hard time dealing with it. And I remember very specifically what happened. I had a day where my stress was at an all-time high, and I was not feeling good about that. And I remember thinking to myself about meditation. I thought I really ought to try that sometime. And I thought I might as well just try it right now. And there was a chair across the room, and I went over there and I said, I'm just going to sit here for 10 minutes, close my eyes, and just breathe. And I'm just going to commit to that. I mean, can't hurt at this point. And I tried it, and I actually felt calmer. And now I was at 110% stress. If it brought me down to 98%, that was better than where I was at. But it certainly didn't make it all go away, but it helped. And I did recognize that. And so I started to look more into it again. I happened to read an article that was written by somebody by the name of Donna Rockwell. And I noticed at the end of the article that she was based locally here where I live in the Detroit area. So I seeked her out. I called her up, and she's a psychologist and meditation teacher. And I made an appointment. I went into her office, And I said, I'm here to learn how to meditate, and I'd like you to teach me. I read that article you wrote. And she said, okay, great. And she set up a couple chairs. We sat across from each other, and she took me through a guided meditation. And at the end, I said, okay, great. That's it. And she said, that's it. It was that simple. And I said, okay, great. So that must have been my first, kind of like 101 into meditation. So I set up a second time to go see her. And I went in and I said, I'm back. I'm ready for the next level. I'm ready for the next step on learning about meditation. And she said, well, I already taught you. Why are you back? And I said, because I'm ready for class 102. And she said, there's no 102, but we'll do it again. And she took me through the same exact exercise. And at the end, I was still confused. I thought there's got to be more to this. And she said, no, it's that simple. So my point in all this is it's actually very simple. And I learned that through that experience. And I've been meditating ever since. And so since that time, I've gotten very interested in the topic because I've seen such strong effects on myself. I started going to a conference out in San Francisco called the Wisdom 2.0 Conference, and it was started as a discussion about technology and mindfulness. And obviously, all the large tech companies are located out there, and every brand name that you can think of: Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. They all have started mindfulness programs because their team members, their employees, work rigorous schedules. It's highly competitive, and they were all looking for ways to give them a better work-life balance. And the conference has grown from 300 to 3,000. I've gone every single year since they've had it. And so I've learned a lot through that. One of the things I learned and I ended up doing was taking a one-day silent retreat at a place called Spirit Rock, which is also out in the Bay Area. And then over the last 2 years, I went on an 8-day silent retreat in 2014 and again in 2015. And so that's what I've done. But I tell you right now, that is not what you need to do to establish a meditation practice. My practice is 45 minutes in the morning when I wake up and 20 minutes in the evening before I go to bed. But again, this is not something that is something that everybody has to do. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So very quickly, I just want to share with you, what I've learned over the time about benefits, or kind of an overview of meditation in general. So first of all, it's a non-denominational practice. So it's a complement to many religions, if that's something that's near to you. You don't need to chant. You don't need to wear a robe or shave your head. As a result of meditation, I can tell you, you will be calmer and you will have a different perspective on the world. You will be a better significant other, whether it be a husband or a wife or boyfriend, girlfriend. You'll be a better, if you have children, you'll be a better parent. You'll be a better family member. You'll be a better friend. You'll be a better person. You'll be better with your team members at work. You'll just be better. And most of all, you'll start to recognize the stress and the feelings that you have. And really what the meditation practice does is it allows you to just stop and recognize those feelings and be aware of them. You start to slow down. And there's a great quote, "Slow motion gets you there quicker," that I love and I always kind of fall back on. Another great thing that I've learned is that you start to listen. And I have a feeling if I ask you, and I would answer the same way, are you a good listener? Most people would say yes. I think that in particular, I'm a good hearer. So I hear the words. I can comprehend what's being said, but oftentimes I might be making judgments or even formulating my response. What I've learned is listening is really about letting go of all that and just being right there. And when you're with that person or those people, say you're in a meeting in a business environment or with your family, they feel that energy. And as leaders, whether it's with a company or whether it's just out in the world, that's huge. And I think we can all recognize that. It also trains you to be really focused on now, this moment. So most of us, as I'm sure we're all aware, are pretty focused on either the past or the future. And we know that there's nothing that we can do about the past. And we like to think that we can control the future, but the fact is we know we can't. And so the present moment is all we really have. There's a great quote by a person by the name of John Kabat-Zinn, and he is he's the person really who created what's called the mindfulness-based stress reduction program out of the University of Massachusetts. He was featured on 60 Minutes recently. You might have seen it. I think it was back in the fall. And he said, if you want fear, get a future. And if you want to be depressed, get a past. That really clicked for me. And I mentioned a minute ago about leadership and the Wisdom 2.0 conference that I go to every year, and I just got back from it actually on Tuesday. Pete Carroll, who is the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks football team, he won the Super Bowl, and he's been to the Super Bowl twice. He was there talking. He meditates, and they have a mindfulness program with the team and with the young guys on the team. And he said something that really stuck for me. And he said that the best have a commitment to excellence and growing and getting out of their comfort zone. And so to each one of you, I know that's why you're here, because you want to be the best. And it takes getting out of your comfort zone, doing things that are unconventional, doing things that are different to really be the best. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about the facts behind it. And there is so much in terms of facts. You can spend all night after this if you want Googling information on this. So I'm just going to give you a couple quick things that I wanted to share with you. And I'll start with a place called the Center for Healthy Minds, and that's at the University of Wisconsin. It's led by Richard Davidson, and he is a world-renowned scientist who studies the brain and has most specifically started studying meditation's effect on the brain. So a couple of things I'll share with you, and there's all sorts of stuff about him and his work that you can find, and we'll be sending you resources following the fishbowl. First of all, they did a study in inner city schools, one in particular that I'll mention. It was a very difficult situation going on there. They had suspensions going through the roof. Attendance was plummeting, and their standardized test scores were extremely low. They were the worst in the state. And they put into place a mindfulness program. They went to the principal to ask him about it, and he said, at this point, I'll try anything. And so they did it for 90 days. And what they found, big surprise, you know what I'm about to share with you, is that the suspensions went the opposite way. They went way down. Attendance was over 90%, and their standardized test scores went way up. The other thing that they've found is extremely positive effects on brain structure by studying new and experienced meditators using an MRI. So they're actually using the science and viewing the brain and the changes that take place in meditators and non-meditators and looking at the differences. And again, you'll have resources that will give you more detail on that if you're interested in it. Again, having just returned from the Wisdom 2.0 conference, there was a new speaker this year, and it's the CEO of kind of an old school insurance company, Aetna. I'm sure many of you have heard of Aetna. They're a major insurance company with 50,000 employees. and their CEO was there speaking. His name is Mark Bertolini. And Mark had a skiing accident a number of years ago. He was in extreme pain and could not find anything that could help him. And so he tried meditation. It was something that somebody through the mindfulness-based stress reduction program had recommended. And it really worked well for him. It didn't make the pain go away. It just helps you manage it. And so he decided to institute a mindfulness program at the company. And they invested about a couple $100,000, I think it was. And at this point, this was in 2011. And as they went into this, he had one very important request, and that was that they collect a lot of data about the effects, about the results of what was going to happen. Obviously, they're an insurance company, so data is very important to them. But he also didn't want to have put in place this program and not have some measurable results. So he wanted to see what the data would be. So here are some of the results to date. So far, about 25% of the company's 50,000 employees have participated in at least one class. They found their healthcare costs went down 7%. Those who have participated in the class, on average, had a 28% reduction in their stress levels, a 20% improvement in their sleep quality, and a 19% reduction in pain. They also found they were more effective on the job. They estimate that they're gaining an average of somewhere between 60 and 70 minutes of productivity every single week from every employee that took that course. And that's worth, they figure, about $3,000 per year for about 13 to 14,000 employees. So if you are in business, just do the math on that. And demand for the program is rising. Every class at this point is overbooked. Most of all, he noticed that they just seem to be working better together on the job. And you can't really put data to that, but he just feels a different energy there. So now they're going to invest another $1 million to expand the class and to build an evidence case with additional facts that they can bring to market. They have a microsite that you will be getting a link to that helps companies that are interested in creating a mindfulness program and how you can go about that. Last month, he actually hired a chief mindfulness officer. So I guess that's a new executive position you might start seeing in some of the larger companies. And there was something that he said there that stuck in my mind, which was, you can't lead effectively unless you have a personal practice that allows you to present your best self each day. And we all know, as leaders and as team members and people, just out in the world, that we want to present our best self each day. That's what is the difference maker. And so that really stuck out to me. Now, as a result, he shared with us that his stock price at the time was at 32. And he was really nervous that when he instituted this program, that his board was going to look at him as the crazy meditating CEO. And now the stock price, I guess, is somewhere around 107. And so now all the board members are coming to him, asking him to learn how to meditate. At Image One, we don't have a mindfulness program, but obviously these kind of facts and the numbers that I can, as an owner, that I can wrap my head around, certainly gives me a pause to say, I wonder if we should. So moving on from the science and some of the fact-based information, how? That's always the next question. How do I get started? What do I do? It's so confusing. I felt the same way. Really, it's very easy, but it's hard. It's a simple mind exercise, but it's also a difficult mind exercise. So just know that going in, and that's totally normal. Typically, it's done sitting. You can sit on a chair or on a cushion. Some people choose to lay down. It's better sitting, but if you want to lay down, if that's where you're most comfortable, that's perfectly fine. Overall, you want to take really good care of yourself and be comfortable. And if you have injuries, just be very conscious of that. How do you know when to stop, how long to go for, etc.? Well, start with any amount of time that seems to be comfortable and makes sense to you. So if it's a minute, make it a minute. If it's 10 minutes, make it 10 minutes, whatever you want. We all have mobile phones at this point with timers, so you can just time yourself. There's tons of apps that'll ring bells, and you can use those. I'm going to send you some in the resources. What you don't need is the perfect surrounding. You don't need it to be the best time of day, and you don't need to be in the perfect state of mind for it. So getting going is pretty darn simple, and it's just whatever works best for you. So a quick question for those of you that I can see, and just by wave of hands, how many of you have a workout program, where you go to the gym or you go for a run or something, maybe on a pretty regular basis? Okay. And so usually, hi, John. So usually people do that because they want to be healthier, or they want to build muscle mass, or whatever your reason. And I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but you got to go to the gym and have that workout regimen more than one time. You keep going, and you start to feel better, and you start to feel healthier, and you start to feel the muscle mass gaining. And so you're practicing, and it's the same thing with your brain. It's no different than your physiology. It's your brain, and you have to practice. And so the more you do it, the more often you do it, the better results that you're going to receive, because you're really exercising your brain and you're rewiring the circuits that are there. So with that, I can tell from everybody looking at me, you just can't wait to actually try it. So using the amazing benefits of modern technology, we're going to try it. Yes, I know it couldn't be more uncomfortable, but who cares? Let's just do it. So I'm going to show you and kind of take you through and guide you through the technique. And then we'll do a couple minutes worth of meditation. It won't be too long. It might feel like hours to some, and it might feel like seconds to others. So first of all, just get yourself comfortable. Ideally, if you're in a seat and you're not laying down, you'll keep your back upright and kind of let your body hold you up straight. If you could leave your back off of the back of your chair, that's best. But if that's not comfortable, don't worry about it. Again, just be very conscious of being comfortable. Put your hands on your thighs, ideally down by your knees, but if you can't get them down there, that's fine. So just comfortably on your thighs. Have your feet firmly grounded on the ground, apart, not together. Back to your hands real quick. If it's not comfortable on your thighs, you're welcome to put them together in the middle. Again, whatever's most comfortable, but ideally on your thighs, down by your knees. And now we're going to close our eyes or keep them open with a soft gaze. And we're going to just scan our body for a second. And so you'll start at the bottom of your body, at your feet. You feel your feet grounded on the floor, on the ground, and you kind of maybe think about the balls of your feet and think about your toes, your big toe, your heel, and your ankle. And then we're just going to head on up your body, your shin and your knees. Just think about those, any feelings that are arising or coming up, any pains you might have, your thighs. We'll move on up towards your torso, your stomach, your midsection, your chest. You could feel maybe your heart beating. Then we'll head on over to your hands on your thighs and Just feel your fingers against your thighs and feel what that feels like, the weight of your hands and your fingers on your thighs. Maybe just feeling your fingers, and then head on up your arms. Feel your elbows, your shoulders, and then your back. Might have some back pains or something back there, your shoulder blades. Then we'll head up through your neck, and then your mouth. You just feel your lips and your teeth and your tongue and your nose, your eyes, your forehead, and then the crown of your body. And so, or of your head, excuse me. And so what you've done at this point, keeping your eyes closed or at a very soft gaze in front of you, what you've done is very quickly, you've just scanned your body and thought about parts of your body that you usually don't think about, and you're sort of just tuning in. So that's the first piece of this, is just really tuning in. And so let's tune in a little bit closer, and let's tune into your breath. And so go to your nostrils and feel the air going in your nostrils into your breath, and take your breath in and just breathe normally, and let it go in through your nose and down through your throat, and wherever it stops, whether it be your chest or your midsection, your stomach. It's kind of different for everybody. Kind of stop there and then back up and out your nose. So just normal breathing in, just following your breath. It's funny to say, but we breathe every day. We don't think much of it, and it's a miracle. I mean, it's what keeps us alive. We're breathing. So to recognize it is pretty special. And so I'm sure as you're recognizing your breath and you're concentrating on all these different things that I've shared with you, you've been thinking a lot. And you might be thinking about, am I doing this right? You might be thinking about a meeting you had earlier. You might be thinking about something you have going on later. And that's normal. And these are thoughts that are going to arise constantly throughout your meditation practice forever. And so it's your ability to recognize your thoughts. And somebody taught me that when you recognize your thoughts, use a keyword. And so what I say is thinking. And that's my keyword, that I'm recognizing my thoughts, and that brings me back and brings you, at this point, bring you back to your breath. And so as you start to recognize your thoughts, just say thinking, and then just go back to your breath, in through your nose, down through your throat, and then wherever it stops in your torso, and back up and out your nose, breathing normally. And so now what we'll do is we'll just sit quietly, so you won't hear my voice, and just try to recognize your thoughts, use that keyword thinking, and go back to your breath. And we'll do that for a couple of minutes. Okay, so at this point, it's a very simple, just open your eyes very slowly. And welcome back. Congratulations, you are now mindful. You were recognizing two things that you do naturally every single day, which is breathing and thinking. And so thank you, by the way, for allowing me to do that with you. It's a real honor, and I'm humbled that you'd be willing to do that with me. And so with Glenn's facilitation skills here, I'll just put it out to the group at this point. And how did it feel? What was happening? What was going on? And how do you feel now? And so if you could maybe indicate by waving, or somebody who's brave, maybe wave your hand, and Glenn will get you off mute and we can have a little discussion. Hi.
Yeah, I've never done that before, and I mean, I thought it felt great. I feel more relaxed, and I'm just curious, is this something that that just needs to become a habit that we do daily or a few times a week, and that automatically leads to being more mindful, or is there more to it?
That's a great question. My experience is that yes, it should become a discipline, just like I was talking about with workout regimen. And what it does is it's training your mind to be more mindful and recognize when certain things are arising. And so through that practice and through that discipline, you become better at it. Now I've been doing it a long time and I got a long way to go. So yeah, doing it on a regular basis is what's going to get you there faster, like anything else.
I'll ask another question if I can. With how does balancing being mindful, how do you balance that with like planning for the future and reflecting on the past? I mean, it seems like there needs to be some balance there.
Yeah, well, what I've learned is we learn from the past and we have hopes for the future, but all we can do is what's right now and be aware of what's right now. And so if we're always dwelling on the past, thinking about what's going to happen in the future, one's gone and one's not here yet. So why don't we just be our best at this moment? Jen, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I kind of lost my voice, so I'm a little raspy right now. I just came out of a meeting that was fairly normal, but it also had some heightened components to it, which was easy to get you a little revved up. And this was nice because it helped to recenter me back down, so that as I go into the rest of my day, I can stay present into what needs to happen, and also just think about how I want to react. It's easy sometimes for me to feel like I want to react in the moment, but when I just sit on my feelings and then just listen to what's around me and even just to myself. So I'm thankful for this session, Rob, because it's helping me go into an afternoon meeting that could be a little rough, but I feel much better about it.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
I was going to say, Rob, throughout a day, you talked about having a session in the morning and a session at night, but how can you effectively do this during the day when you might feel a heightened need for it after a meeting that's difficult, or proceeding is it something that you can just take 30 seconds and create that mindfulness, or how do you apply it throughout the day?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, you could sit at your desk if you're comfortable with that. If if you're out in the open and you're comfortable, if you're in a safe place. But if you're not, if you could find a place to just be private, and you can go in your car if you need to. I've heard people meditating on planes. You can go in your conference room, or whatever you have available to you, and just close your eyes and do the exercise we did. Even if it's just for a couple minutes, it can make a big difference.
Rob, is there something that you do, particularly when you first started this, that when you're in a moment and you're like, man, I really need to have my couple minutes of meditation, but I'm in the middle of a meeting, or I'm in the middle of a conversation or a situation. They're like, I really need to be present and focus myself in, but you can't step away from it. Is there something that you have done or would suggest that can help try to keep you in this moment, present in an active situation?
What would you do?
My what I've been trying to do is just particularly go into more of a listening mode, but sometimes it's hard to do that because the expectation is maybe an active dialogue, or or it may seem like you're disengaging when you go into that mode. And maybe there's sort of nothing, you just gotta have to like get through it and then sit on it for a few minutes after. But I don't know if you've got some sort of technique or suggestion for in an active moment.
Well, those are all, everything you said is right on. The fact that you're aware is the first thing that's huge. Just being aware and not react, kind of checking yourself. So yeah, sometimes you just get through it. You might add, just take a breath. Nick,
go ahead.
Yeah. I thank you for the exercise. Fantastic exercise,
you're
Rob.
doing it with me, Nick.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing it. I've been practicing meditation for around 10 years. Same process you're doing. The practice is a practice. I don't know that there's ever a better or worse. There's always just is. As you were just talking about, how do we do this, both the highs question and how do we do it during the day? I love what you said about past and future and present. And the highs question, even if we sit down to plan for the future, really all we're doing is planning for the future in this moment. So my practice is even as we create our vision for 2015 or 16, this is 16, I do it fully present in this moment, that plan. And then when I'm done with the plan, I'm again in this moment. And then the exercise you just gave us of following our breath into our, I prefer to take it into my diaphragm. I feel like that's an expansive, it's also physiologically speaking a really healthier way to breathe fully, is to breathe in our diaphragm versus up in our chest. We get more oxygen to our brain when we breathe into our belly. That practice in the morning is a practice. And then during the day, I could meditate on a busy Friday night shift in the restaurant simply by the way I could be present in a tough conversation or in a stressful moment. Even though my eyes are open, I'm just going to stand still for a minute, and I'm just going to follow 3 breaths. I'm going to follow the breath in through my nose, back to my spine, into my belly, expand my belly fully, and then follow that breath back out again as my belly comes in, up my spine, and back out my nose. That's the way I found that I'm able to meditate, even if it's only for 30 seconds or a minute, 3 breaths or 5 breaths. That act actually slows down the overactive brain and brings me into this present moment. So hopefully that's helpful, what I've learned.
Fantastic.
Ashton? Oh,
We can't hear you.
I hear you, Ashton.
No. Darn it.
If you want to go ahead and submit your question via the chat, I'll get it asked for Rob. Rob, is there any applications for meditation like during physical activity? Is there? I mean, people talk about hitting a runner's high and hitting the road to clear their mind, or is it really something to get the effect you gotta kind of be still in your space?
That's the experience that I've had is stillness. It's something we don't do. We're very active people and we're always on the go. We're busy, and there's something to being still. I think that running and different exercises like that, they have a different component to them and probably somewhat of a meditative component, but it's different than this.
Great. Thanks, Rob. Rachel?
I wanted to ask, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I wanted to ask, You said you meditate for 45 minutes in the morning and then 20 minutes at night. Is that based on just how much time you have available, or is that like a strategic choice of you found that that amount of time works best for you?
I don't really know. I guess it just works. That time seems to work best for me, actually. Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay.
So Rob Ashton wanted to know if A, you're attending the 2016 summit, and B, if you would be willing to start our days off with a meditation session to increase our mindfulness for the event.
Good night, everybody.
And I did not plant that question with Ashton. So nothing like being on the spot. I will let you marinate on that for a little bit here.
Ashton, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Okay.
Hey, Rob High wants to know if you can talk, just maybe drill down a little bit more, just like what it means to be mindful.
Oh boy. Well, the most simplistic way that I can describe it is being very aware of the moment, being aware of what your thoughts are at that moment. And if you're with others or even with yourself, to be able to react in the appropriate manner. So let's just say hypothetically, I'm in a situation where I feel my stress level going up and I might react in an adverse way. Maybe somebody's taken a long time at the market or something, and we've all been in that position. I'm in a rush, they're taking forever, but you recognize it and you take a breath and you think, this is nothing. I mean, this is so unimportant. And even in business, I find myself, we'll get into a heated discussion, and then I'll be, as I've practiced more, I can take a step back and say, it's great to be passionate, but to get upset about it, it's so not worth it. I'm here in the moment, and it's such a special thing to be here at this moment that, I shouldn't be getting so caught up in it. So I think that the mindfulness practice in recognizing those times through the practice is really the benefit.
Great, thanks for the question. Hi. Drew, go ahead.
Hello?
Gotcha.
Hey. I know that you said your word was, but do you ever say any other things to yourself, like any other feelings, like anxious or whatever might be going on, or does it fall into thinking?
You can use my word, by the way.
I'm in on your word.
I don't, but some do. Some do name their feelings at that moment, but I was taught not to. So I don't, because I don't. The reason behind it was just to not judge it and just to not give it something. It's just a thought, and it's fine. So whether it's a good thought or a not as good a thought, it's just a thought. And so just to recognize it by saying, thinking, and then just going back, the whole key is getting back to the breath. So you can be focused on just your breath and try to find that clarity. And it only comes in, little doses, but it's there.
Cool.
Rob, how did you find people reacting to you once you started to practice meditation more consistently?
That's a good question. I don't know. but I feel I feel I'm a better person to most, not everybody, but most. But I'm trying.
And Hai would like to know, is a silent retreat exactly what it sounds like? Because as an introvert, it sounds awesome.
Hi, you'll love it. There's no talking for the whole 8 days. You definitely try not to make eye contact with other people. There's no reading, no listening to things like music, or there's no emails. There's nothing, no distractions. You're just really clearing your mind. And I'll share with you one thing that I thought, that has been an experience for me in doing it, is that you go in with all this stuff, and then as the week progresses, that stuff goes so away. It's like so nothing. And then there's other stuff that's beneath that. And then that stuff comes in, you're like, oh, wow. And then that stuff starts to go away. Then there's other stuff that starts to come up, so it's like this, it's almost like a process for me that I was going through. But I could have done it longer, and I intend to. In fact, this year, I'm looking at doing a 10-day in November.
Well, Hai will send you information about that so you can join Rob.
The more the merrier. Nick's there too? Okay, great.
Fantastic. We'll make sure to get that.
It'll be a mini Small Giants summit where you can't talk.
Rob, Ashton would like to know, do you journal during the retreats so you can dive deeper into those layers?
There's no journaling. So during the retreats, you can't do anything. You sit for a lot of it, just meditating like we just did, and there's some mindful walking that you do where you just walk very, very slow, mindful eating, and there are some very brief talks, but it's just mainly letting it all go, everything. So none of that. Having said that, if it's important to you to journal, there are no rules. So if you need to talk, if you need to journal, as long as you're not disrupting other people, there's just no rules behind that. So,
Rob, what's the setting of the retreat?
It's very basic, but it's in the one I went to is in the mountains in Colorado. So obviously it's beautiful.
Great. Thank you. Hemsa, go ahead.
Thank you, Rob. This was great. So I've actually tried meditation just once before, and it was through an app. And so they guided you sort of through what you did for us, feeling like the different parts in your body and the breathing. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on doing something like that versus just really just doing it on your own without the guide?
I think an app is great. I use apps sometimes to remind myself. My favorite app, and the app that I seem to hear back from people that they like, is one called Headspace, and that'll be in your resource package. Headspace is a great story from a business perspective too. They just raised, it is a former monk from London, and he started this app, and it's grown, and big fan is like Richard Branson, who owns Virgin Brands, and they just raised $30 million. So I don't know what the business case is behind it or whatever, but it's a great app, and if you like to hear an English guy's voice, that's an added benefit.
So we've got about 8 minutes left here. Are there any last questions before we wrap things up? Or last thoughts in general? Well, okay, then I'll tell you.
Nick, did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it really well. Thank you very much. It was a lot of gratitude. I'm excited that it's becoming, that meditation is becoming more common, because it's the best stress reliever in life I've ever experienced. So thank you.
And Nick, you start all your management meetings off with a brief meditation, don't you?
Our Thursday fiscal huddles that we do do a little bit of yoga before and just sit in silence for 10 minutes, and then do our meeting as well. Yep.
Very cool.
Nick, let me ask you, how did your team respond to that when you introduced it?
Yeah, I think they respond well. I can't remember when we introduced it because it was a long time ago, but I don't know. We do a lot of crazy stuff, so it's just another crazy thing. But yeah, what I will share though is I've noticed that we've had a manager or two feel uncomfortable, and interesting that manager or two that felt uncomfortable about doing it didn't stick around long in our culture. So that's the only thing I would say. The ones that didn't enjoy it actually didn't end up working out either. So
interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
Stephen has a question.
Yep.
Yeah, hi. That was really, really great. I practiced yoga actually every single day this 2016 year, and it's been really, really impactful in my life. And not to leave anything on a negative note or anything, but I was in a situation that got highly, highly intense with my girlfriend last week, and on two different points during this conversation, I recognized my feelings. I was mindful, I was aware, and I removed myself from the situation. And actually, on the third attempt, as the conversation escalated, I was unable to control myself in the moment, and now I'm living with a lot of grief and regret for the things that were said and done, and I'm just really working to get past that. And I'm wondering if you have any last bit of advice to how to use meditation now, maybe throughout my day as I'm reliving these again. I mean, I think your quote was great. If you want to be depressed, get a past. If you want to get fear, get a future. And I'm kind of living in those states. So I think this is really critical for me. And I'm just curious if you have any last minute bits of advice for my particular situation.
Well, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that you're very aware, and that's the starting point. So congratulations for that, and congratulations for staying disciplined about your yoga practice, and do the same with meditation. And it's just a little bit at a time. It's just like your yoga practice or working out. It's going to take a lot of time, and you're going to have your moments like we all do. And meditators for years all have their moments. I have my moments. So it's just about, continuing the practice, and they start to, become fewer, but they don't go away. So I would that would be my advice.
Great. Thank you so much.
I'm just a regular guy, by the way. I'm no professional or expert in any of this.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. That was really nice.
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, that is the end of today's Fishbowl session on mindfulness. Typically we would thank somebody with like a round of applause or cheering, but I think we should thank Rob with a moment of peacefulness and just quiet. And it's really easy because you're all on mute, right?
Yeah.
So, but no, again,
I'll just say, Glenn, thank you, all of you, supporting me, first of all, friends and family. And for those of you that I don't know or whatnot, I'm just very grateful for you taking time out of your day to do this. It's really cool. I congratulate you. So looking forward to sending you the mindfulness pamphlet from Ari. You'll love it. and sending you the resources as well. Feel free to contact me, by the way, at any time. You could text me, email me, give me a phone, or give me a call, any of that. So,
Great.
thanks, Glenn.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, everybody, for
Good to
participating.
see everybody. Take care.
Have a good one.
Okay, well that's it for this one. Check out more Fishbowls exclusively for the Small Giants community at smallgiants.org.